Hello vinyl community, back with yet another video. What is it they say? A rolling stone gathers no moss. Anyways, after my video yesterday from a long summer hiatus, I'm back at day 2 with a second video. Recently saw on the vinyl community that the Gimme 10 series is fired up once again. This time we're strolling through the 1980s. For those of you not familiar with the Gimme 10 thread series, I believe it was originally conceived by Fred, Big Star 1000. About a year ago, I think he hammered through the 1970s 1 year at a time. And you simply do a video response where you show 10 of your favorite records from that particular year. It was received very well. I believe I did 2 videos, response videos, through the 1970s. I think 1975 and 1976. I'm not 100%. I still have the videos posted, but I would have to go through and have a look again. But now that this is revving up again through the 1980s, we're now at 1981. I believe this was brought about by Vinyl Richie, Pat. Thanks, Pat, for getting this one revved up again. It's really an exciting series to do, and I wanted to jump on here, starting for me at least with 1981. I've only watched one thread response for 1981 thus far, and I thought, well, before I start watching some more, I'll do my own response. So here we go, my humble 10, no particular order in terms of favorites or release dates, etc. Number 1, the Rolling Stones, Tattoo You. Probably their last great album. They had good albums after this, but their last solid great album. This is fantastic. Of course, Start Me Up's big hit from this one. Fan favorite of Keith's, Little T&A is on this, Waiting on a Friend, No Use in Crying, Hang Fire, Worried About You. Great stuff. Rush. Had to include this. Not my favorite Rush album, but it is certainly a fan favorite. It was received very well. Probably their most popular album. Had to make the list. For those of you that don't know, the front cover, by the way, is the legislature building in Toronto. It's the provincial government of Ontario. That's where they meet. Those are the front steps to the building in Toronto, Ontario, which is where Rush is from. Probably one of the albums that takes me back to when I was a kid, heavily. As many of you know who've been watching my videos, my dad was a big influence when I was a kid, and the Moody Blues were always one of his favorites. And this is a record that I always remember seeing, and just my dad would listen to all the time. This is Long Distance Voyager, and just a solid record, start to finish. Great cover. Fantastic stuff. My favorite album from these guys. This is Van Halen's Fair Warning. Big ones on this: Mean Street, Sinner's Swing, Unchained. Great stuff. Not a favorite of mine from Prince, but for 1981 standards, I think this is a really solid album. Controversy. Underrated, completely underrated. Maybe a little bit more prog for these guys. I think I remember, if I remember correctly, Alt Music, which is a website I go to from time to time. I think their own review of this album is at 2 stars. But if you look at fans or users that can get on there and rate this album as well, I think they give it like a 4 or 4.5. Severely underrated in my opinion. This is Time by Yello. This is kind of smack dab in their discography, but very underrated. If you're not familiar with this and you like Yello even just a little bit, highly recommend it. Probably their best album, and I think my favorite of theirs as well. This is Japan's Tin Drum. Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. This is Hard Promises, and this is a half-speed pressing that I have have of this. The sound on this is just mind-blowing. Of all the work that Brian Eno does, and I mean, he has a massive body of work. This one stands out. I don't think it's maybe near the top or regarded as some of his best, but this album that he did with David Byrne is just, it's rock solid. It's always been there. I'm not sure it's really one that people know about. I think big Eno fans would be familiar with it, but My Life in the Bush of Ghosts is really quite good. And I only had this record, I maybe got this record two and a half years ago. Wasn't familiar with it. Excellent stuff. And the last one here, this is 10. Probably his best guitar album from his solo work. Thanks, of course, to the one and only Randy Rhoads. This is Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Bad Man. Had to make the list. This one, in my opinion, is right up there with Blizzard of Oz. Great stuff. Anyways, thanks, Pat, for kicking this one into gear again. I really love the Gimme 10 series. I recommend any of you watching to do this. It really is fun. If any comments to what you've seen here, please leave them below, and I try to get back to everybody. And on that, I thank you very much for watching. Take care.